Today we're going to read and listen to a story about an engineer named Henry Ford. Remember, we learned last week that an engineer is someone who makes something that solves a problem. They ask, they imagine, they create, and they improve. And I think as you listen to the story today, you're going to see how Henry Ford used all of those steps of the engineering process. This is also a biography. A biography is like the book we read yesterday about Helen Keller. It's a story, it's a book about a person's life. It is true. It's a true story about their life, giving you facts and information about them. And whenever we read a biography, the first thing we should ask ourselves is, why did they write a book about this person? So as we're reading, we're going to try to figure out, why did they write a book about Henry Ford? All right, so we're going to start out here. We have a table of contents. And remember that the table of contents basically tells you all the different sections that are in the book and where to find specific information. And a table of contents is found at the beginning of a book. So let's get started. Henry Ford was an American innovator. He didn't invent the car, but he made a better car. He knew how to make it at a low cost. Henry Ford was born on July 30th, 1863 in Greenfield Township, Michigan. And he died in 1947 in Dearborn, Michigan. You know, and when we read a biography, knowing when they were born and when they died, the specific dates, that isn't the important thing. It's kind of knowing where in history they were born. But basically, we've already learned now is that Henry Ford made a better car. So let's find out how he did it. Master Machine. Here's the heading, Master Machine, or Machine Master. Henry Ford was born on a farm. His father wanted him to be a farmer, but Henry was more interested in machines. He became good at fixing watches, and he learned about many other kinds of machines. So even at the beginning, when he was young, he was using his skills to persevere and try new things. How he became an innovator or an inventor, making a better car. Ford experimented with making a car. It had a gas engine. All our cars have gas engines now, right? But back then, they really didn't. He called it the Ford Quadricycle. He made it in 1896. Ford experimented with other kinds of cars. He even made a race car. It was called the 999 after the fastest train engine. And on this page, it shows us a little table of some other people that were also other auto innovators, engineers. But we're just going to focus on Henry Ford. Writing a bestseller. Ford made the Model N in 1907. It cost less than most other cars, and it became the best-selling car in the country. So this was the best-selling car. That's something important. And the Model T. But Henry Ford was not satisfied. So here's where he used that step in the engineering process, improve. He wanted to improve his car. He wanted to make it so that anybody could buy a car, not just very wealthy people, but just anybody could get a car. So he wanted to make a better car at an even lower price, and he made the Model T in 1908. It cost less than the Model N, and more people could buy one. The Model T was very popular. People bought as many as the company could make. Henry Ford wanted to make a lot more Model Ts. The company moved to a new factory in 1910. It was in Highland Park, Michigan. So you got to remember, every time they went to make a car up to this point, they made each piece of the car individually. You know, kind of like if you think back in our junior achievement program when you made donuts where you made one donut all by yourself and how that took more time. Well, Henry Ford decided he wanted a bigger, better, faster, stronger way of making the cars. So his new factory was much bigger, and the car parts were standardized. That means that they use the same specific part in each car. And so someone would produce all the wheels, and someone would produce the next part of the car. The assembly line moved. The factory workers could produce many more cars. So he has this assembly line, and so they could make a lot more cars at a lot cheaper price. At first, the Model T came in different colors, but then Ford sped up the assembly line. Black paint dried fastest, so all Model Ts were painted black. So the thing he was most concerned about then was getting them produced quickly so that people would have them to buy. The Model T was a big success. It was easy to make, and it had a low price. Henry Ford made it possible for the average person to own a car. Let me just read that page again. Henry Ford made it possible for the average person to own a car. So why do you think they wrote a book about Henry Ford? What was special about him? I like this picture right up here. This gentleman, it says it's Ford's friend Thomas Edison with a Ford Model T in 1928. We're going to learn more about Thomas Edison this week too. So there you have it. More about Ford. Ford knew Thomas Edison. Edison encouraged Ford's work with cars. Ford once ran for a seat in the U.S. Senate, but he didn't win. And he died in 1947. When he died, all traffic in Detroit stopped for 1 minute to honor him. So, and we're going back and thinking about what we've learned after listening to the story, reading the story. Why did they write a book about Henry Ford? Be thinking about that. How did Henry Ford show perseverance? How did he keep going and trying even when things got hard? Can you think back to an example from the story? And how can we use what we learned about Henry Ford? So you're going to have a chance now to go into a discussion and put in a response to one of these questions. So when you get done with this story, when done with this video, just click next in the module and it'll take you right on into your next discussion, your next thing to do.